I am joined by Robert Griffin III, former college football star, Heisman Trophy winner, then NFL star for the then Washington Redskins, now, of course, the Commanders, and then transitioning to a star broadcaster on ESPN and now on Fox. RG3, who was the first person that called you RG3? Curious.
Yeah. So I used to be called RLG3 in high school, which, doesn't quite have the same ring to it. Some people called me R2D2, but it was actually a broadcaster. My very first game at Baylor called me RG3 on a sideline step back run that I had that was really similar to Reggie Bush's famous sideline step back run. And from that point on, I was RG3 from here to eternity. So thankful to him. Can't quite remember his name, but he was the first one to call me.
All right. So, but you enjoy the nickname because not everybody loves their nicknames that they get pigeonholed with. I think it's a good one.
Yeah. For me, it's my initials.
Yeah.
So it's like if I didn't like my initials, then it'd be something. But no, it's been fun and I like it because I like to honor my parents and honor my dad, and that's what the name represents.
I want to start with, we are CNBC, so I want to start with a business question. We just found out this week that the University of Utah is going to be the first college program to accept private equity money. That, of course, is an offshoot of the changing landscape of college football with the introduction of NIL and money. I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on how NIL has changed the game in terms of the direction of college football. When you hear about this and you realize private equity money is coming into the game, is that good for the game or does it give you concern?
Oh man, I look at it this way and say if Utah can bring in $500 million, just imagine how much some of these other schools out here are going to be able to bring in when it comes to funding, not just for NIL, but it's because people want to be associated with college football. And for generations, the school system and the scholarship-based system, where the students don't make anything, they get a free scholarship to go to school, but then coaches are making tens of millions of dollars, $100 million over the course of years. The universities are making billions of dollars. That was always unfair to the student athletes. So now student athletes kind of have, what do they say? It's always fun until, the rabbit's got the gun or whatever that phrase is. Now the student athletes have the control. They can go into the transfer portal. They can maximize their opportunities to make as much money as possible. And I think that shift in power structure has affected a lot of universities and a lot of coaches. That's why you're seeing a lot of legendary coaches like Nick Saban who just up and retire out of nowhere because they don't want to have to, navigate that front. So I just look at it and I say it's great for the student athletes, and the universities have to find a better way to serve the students now than the power structure from the past, because that's never coming back anymore. There needs to be some regulation. I'd be the first one to say I raise my hand and I'd love to be the commissioner of college football. That would be a fun job to try to figure out the best way to serve both the coaches, the players, the student athletes, and the universities in a better way.
One group you didn't mention just there, though, is the fans. Do you feel like the transfer portal and sort of the churning of players, rather than keeping these kids in a system for 3 or 4 years, is potentially a drawback from a viewership perspective?
From a viewership perspective, I don't think it has impacted viewership at all. I think
ratings are up. You're right.
Ratings are up, and then they're continuing to watch. But I will say this. For me, I'm a Baylor Bear, and I'm a Baylor Bear because that's where I went to school for 4 years. I graduated from there, was able to do, incredible things with my teammates there that I'll hold for a lifetime. What is missing right now in college football is guys are transferring 2, 3, 4 times, going to different universities, and they don't have a place that they can call home. So that is a downfall from a student athlete standpoint. But to speak to the fans in particular, typically a fan can latch on to a guy for 3, 4, 5 years, know that guy is going to be at that game, basketball, football, women's soccer, softball, they're going to be there for 3 to 4 to 5 years, and they can truly become fans of the person. And I think that is now missing in college football, along with a lot of our rivalries going by the wayside, because now you got West Coast teams playing in East Coast conferences and they're not playing their rival anymore. That part of it, I think, is a downfall, and not a good thing for college football or college sports in general. But I think there's a way that we can get that back, still pay the players, and give them an opportunity to maximize their talent and their ability. And I bring that up because forever, coaches have been able to hit the transfer portal whenever they want. And teams are, you're a fan of Lane Kiffin, for example. He hits the transfer portal and goes into LSU, right? And yes, some people are upset, but the next year they get over it. And I think we can't hold the student athletes as fans, because I'm a fan too, right? You're a fan of college sports. We can't hold the student athletes to a higher standard than we hold the coaches. The adults in the room have to be just as accountable as the young men and women.
Well, Troy Aikman just made a comment that he had donated money to UCLA, I think for a particular player. He didn't name the player. And that player left after 1 year. And he said, I'm out. I'm done doing this. Has Baylor hit you up for money yet? And what are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. I did see that Troy said that. And I know there are certain people who feel a certain type of way when they put their money into the pot to help a university. Look at what Mr. Campbell did over at Texas Tech. If they weren't able to get into the college football playoff and play the way that they did this year, maybe he's upset that they didn't do what he thought that they could do with the money that he put forth to fund the university. Baylor's got a whole nother set of issues that they've had to been dealing with over the past few months when it comes to looking for a new athletic director, which they have now in Doug McNamee, what they're going to do with their head coach. And I think they've been more focused on that. So I'll keep my financial addings or not addings private.
Okay.
And I'm sure Troy wish he had done the same now that story's blown up.
You mentioned your parents. I'm curious to hear about your partnership with USAA. You grew up, both of your parents had Army backgrounds. And not only am I curious about your USAA partnership, but also, since we're talking about NIL, Army and Navy do not participate in NIL. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on if this current system is fair to them in order to build teams that can compete.
Wow, no, I've actually never thought about that question when it comes to Army and Navy. But I'll talk to you about the partnership with USAA and answer these questions, because you're doing a great job. And these are great questions. So, for me, you mentioned that my parents both served in the Army 31 years. So I am a go Army, beat Navy guy, and I don't shy away from that. I think all of my Army fans would be upset if I did. But the partnership with USAA is something that I really hold near and dear to my heart. And I'm an authentic type of person that wants to have authentic partnerships. So USAA and what they've been able to do over the last 100 years, obviously I have not been alive for 100 years. So the commitment level that we have had for the last 13 years together to give back to the military and show our military veterans that they're not forgotten about, that we appreciate the sacrifices that they're making for our families, and even putting our families before their own, is something that we don't take very lightly. So our Recycled Rides event, we're able to give away 2 vehicles to one individual who serves in the Navy and another who serves in the Army National Guard, and really allow them to live their lives better. It's not a free car. And I explain that to our recipients this year, because they've put in the work and the sacrifices to be able to get this vehicle. They just don't have to pay money for it, but they have paid with their time and how they served our country. And that's important to me. So as you talk about going into this 126th matchup between Army and Navy, and USA being the presenting sponsor of that game, I think there's something unique about serving your country that is greater than the NIL money that you can make on the field or off the field. And I know some people will say, well, isn't a scholarship the same thing? You get a free scholarship to go to college. And it's like, but it's not even close. having the opportunity to go to West Point and speak with the team and talk to those coaches there, they're not there just to play football or gain an education. They're there to do the things that the average American isn't willing to do for us to enjoy the freedoms that we have.
You mentioned you hadn't thought about the fairness of Army and Navy, but there is one thing that I know you have thought about the fairness of, and that's the college football playoff system. And you mentioned you would like to have the job of, commissioner of college football, or I guess that would be NCAA president. I'm not exactly sure what the.
Well, it's definitely not the NCAA president.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think what I guess you'd have to make that job for you. But how would you reform the college football playoffs?
Yeah, no, I mean to finish up that statement about Army and Navy.
Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, it's all fine. What I was going to say, and it leads right into your next question too, is I think it's the responsibility of us as Americans to give our Army and Navy and all of our military veterans the NIL that they deserve. So instead of Army and Navy having to come out of their pockets to do that, we should be willing to come out of our pockets, because they're the people who are going to be serving our country. And when you talk about the commissioner of college football and the college football playoff in general, I wouldn't say I've been critical. I'd just say I've been honest about everything that's going on. The commissioner of college football is a position that would have to be created because a lot of people feel like the NCAA doesn't have any power, true power anymore in college athletics. And when you look at the playoff, I'm not mad at JMU. I'm not mad at Tulane, because they followed the rules and they got into the college football playoff because they won their games. When you look at Notre Dame being left out, the issue there isn't just because it's Notre Dame and they're a prestigious university. The issue is that Alabama wasn't punished for losing their conference championship game in a blowout, and BYU was. So what the College Football Playoff Committee could have done, that would have been the easiest thing possible, was to leave Alabama out, put Miami and Notre Dame in, and I don't think as many people would have been upset. But when you punish a team that's in the Big 12 that's playing in a Power 4 conference in BYU, and you don't punish Alabama, who's in the SEC, it looks like SEC bias. And to be quite frank, it is SEC bias. And that, to me, is something that we can never have in that committee. We have to judge these teams based off their resumes and what they do on the field, not the money that they can bring in via TV viewership.
Last question. I know it's a little early, but give me a prediction for national champion and a Super Bowl winner.
Ooh, Super Bowl. Hey, man, we're ways away from the Super Bowl. We don't even know if the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be in the playoffs. So I'd have to hold off on the Super Bowl for right now. There's a lot of teams that are playing at a high level, but I think the year has shaped up to be an interesting one where you think the Rams might be one of those teams that could do it, and then they lose to a team they're not supposed to lose to. So we'll see how that one plays out. But for the college football playoff, I am willing to make that prediction. Right now I'm rocking with Texas Tech. I think they have the best pass rush in the country. David Bailey led the country in sacks. Romello Height coming off the edge and Lee Hunter in the middle. And I think on offense, they can beat you any which way. So I think people are sleeping on Tech. We'll see what happens. But to me, their matchup with Indiana in the semifinals is going to be must-watch TV. So I'm rocking with Texas Tech to win the national championship.
RG3, thank you, sir.
No problem, brother.